Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. I'm going to talk a bit more about this story which I released on my last video. A lot more details have come out. So as a lot of you may know, three British aid workers, one Canadian, US, one Polish, one Australian, I believe, and one Palestinian were killed in an Israeli airstrike. And a lot more details have come through today. And Israel, obviously, first they tried to deny it, but the evidence was just way too much. First they tried to deny it, saying there was a roadside bomb. And obviously they couldn't deny it because there was big holes in the top of the car. So they couldn't really say, you can see the big hole in the top of the car. They couldn't really say it's a roadside bomb after that, so they had to retract it. Then they said it was a mistake, and they had to retract that as well, because the actual, details of what happened came out today. So basically what happened was there was three vehicles. One got hit by a drone, and a couple of aid workers died, and a couple of them basically had to come out of the vehicle, and they got taken to the second vehicle. Then the drone or a different drone attacked the second vehicle, and a lot more aid workers died. A few of them who survived got taken to the third vehicle, and the drone, or maybe a separate drone, fired at the third vehicle, and everybody died. Basically, there was no surviving members. So they couldn't say it was a mistake, because if it was a mistake, it would have been one vehicle that got destroyed, and they would have been like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, apologies, blah blah blah. But they basically made sure nobody survived. And also, it was a route that was pre-approved by the IDF. So they told aid workers they were working with to take this route. They said they would be safe. Nobody will touch you. And the rest is history. Rest is history, guys. So why did they do this? Three scenarios people are talking about. Obviously, I'm not going to say which one's true, but obviously there's three theories why this has happened. Number one, this was in the Haaretz paper. This is the Israeli Haaretz paper, and they said that the IDF, they work independently. They basically got a free rein to do whatever they want in Gaza. So they don't take any orders from anyone. They basically shoot to kill. Whatever they see moving, they kill. Whatever they see fit, they kill. And this has been what's happening in Gaza. They have been killing innocent civilians, sniping at them, killing them, bombing them, whatever they want. They basically have a free rein to do whatever the hell they want. And that's what Haaretz is saying. And probably most likely this is true. They have been indiscriminately killing whoever they want, and they've been bragging about it all over TikTok and social media. You can see some of the TikTok videos, social media, and even Telegram. They've been bragging about all of the deaths that they've been doing as well. So there's about 300,000 people on the Telegram. And they're all laughing and joking about Palestinian deaths and stuff. And the only reason this has come into mainstream is because these are Western people, or white people, and British people, Australians, Polish. And this is the only reason why this has come mainstream. But if this happened to Palestinians only, it's probably not going to get much traction, to be honest. And that's just me being honest. So the second theory that's going around is these British guys, they were ex-military, which is true. They were ex-military. They were hired by this aid organization to basically do a job and to kind of keep them safe. And And one of the reasons they were killed is because they had too much information about what's happening to Gaza. So a couple of people have actually brought this up, including George Galloway, by the way. So they were saying that these guys were working for an aid organization, but they're also working for the British government as basically collecting information, collecting evidence. And some people are saying that they have collected way too much intelligence about what Israel is doing. And Israelis did not want these guys to go back to Britain and share this information with the British authorities. So they killed them. So that's the second kind of theory, what people are saying. So the third and final theory, which I also think is valid, is basically they did this to take the heat out of some of the war crimes they've been doing in Al-Shifa Hospital. So this is Al-Shifa Hospital after all the war crimes that they've done. And basically they have destroyed one of the last working hospitals in Gaza. They killed up to 400 people, including patients, doctors, nurses, staff. And they basically turned this place into the ground. And you can see from the pictures, you can see it's absolutely destroyed. It's absolutely gone. And these are all like patients and people who are in the hospital, and everyone's pretty much, dead and buried and gone. And there's images of Israelis bulldozing bodies, burying them alive even, and there's pictures on videos on Twitter as well, and of them doing that. And it could be that they wanted some sort of thing to take the impact out of the war crimes that they did in the hospital. But unfortunately for them, this has had greater impact in the West compared to whatever they've done in the hospital. Whatever they've done in the hospital didn't really get much media attention, but this did. So this has actually caused them more damage, and I think that wasn't the intention. I think they wanted something to take the heat off the hospital stuff, so they thought, let's kind of hit some aid workers, and people will talk about that rather than the hospital stuff. And that's what they've done. And another thing they wanted to take the heat off was they obviously attacked the Iranian consulate, and they probably did that to take the heat off this. So they're basically doing one thing after another to take the heat off one subject or another subject. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked, and all three subjects are pretty much in the media, in the Western media. Public resentment towards Israel is growing by the day, and it really hasn't worked. It actually has backfired. So let's go through some other media outlets to see what people are saying. And I just wanted to kind of show you what some of the IDF members are saying. This is the IDF member, and this is what he says.
I want to be very clear. The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened. We will continue taking immediate actions to ensure that more is done to protect humanitarian aid workers. This incident was a grave mistake. Israel...
All right, I've heard enough, guys, and let's look at the next one. So these are the three locations. Basically, the cars got hit. So they were moving, and so first car got hit, second car got hit, and the third car got hit, and you can see completely destroyed. And the IDF guy who was talking, you can see he was just talking BS. Nobody believes his BS end of the day, and it's just gibberish talking. Some of the UK papers obviously is starting to turn. They started to basically talk about, UK should stop sending weapons to Israel, and some papers who are very pro-Israel are starting to turn in terms of the front pages. They are starting to, basically turn on Israel. However, there are still some British papers who are still friends of Israel. And one of the British papers is this, Daily Mail. And you can see Daily Mail's front page is talking about some women being REPE by Hamas. So that's their front page they're going on, instead of all these Britons that got killed and stuff. And I mean, look at the title, Worse Than Death, apparently. And that's what they're going on. So they're not reporting on the Britons that got killed. They're not reporting on the hospital. They're not reporting on the Iranian consulate that got bombed. They're still going on this bloody ridiculous narrative. So you've got John Kirby, again, talking BS as well. And I'll come to John Kirby in a while, but I want to kind of get to Netanyahu. Netanyahu was actually smiling when he was talking about the aid workers being killed. And you can see how he's smiling. He can't get rid of his smirk. And in fact, he looks like a bloody devil or the demon from this picture. And I want to kind of show you. This is not like Photoshop or anything like that. This is him talking. And you can see, look at this guy. He looks like he's happy, he's jolly. He's basically laughing that these aid workers got killed. He can't hold back his smile, basically. And absolutely ridiculous. So let's get to John Kirby. John Kirby is like the worst BS artist I've ever met in my whole entire life, guys. He's the worst out of the bunch of the administration. And I want to kind of show you this guy, breathes, talks BS just coming out of his ass.
The strike as a possible mistake by Israel. According to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, it wasn't one strike, but three. The first one, then an interval during which aid workers got out of their vehicles, removed the wounded, tried to move to another vehicle which was struck, and then a third strike as they tried to move and escape in a third vehicle, at which point all of them were dead. How would the second and third strikes of these marked vehicles be a mistake? And why would the U.S. not more forcefully set conditions on the use of U.S.-made weaponry when it is being used to target aid workers? If the first one was a mistake, the second two were targeted with the intent of killing everyone in that convoy. So how do you respond to that?
First of all, there's an investigation going on. So why don't we let it get done, and why don't we see what they find in terms of the decision-making process that led to this terrible outcome? Prime Minister and the IDF have noted that it was their error. If you don't like the word mistake, their error. They're investigating it. Let them do that work, and let them see what they come up with, and then we'll go from there. They were hitting aid workers and did. Your question presumes, at this very early hour, that it was a deliberate strike, that they knew exactly what they were hitting, that they were hitting aid workers and did it on purpose, and there's no evidence of that. I would also remind you, sir, that we continue to look at incidents as they occur. The State Department has a process in place, and to date, as you and I are speaking, they have not found any incidents where the Israelis have violated international humanitarian law. And lest you think we don't take it seriously, I can assure you that we do. We look at this in real time.
They have never violated international humanitarian law ever in the past 5 to 6 months.
I'm telling you, the State Department has looked at incidents in the past and has yet to determine that any of those incidents violate international humanitarian law.
So you can see, guys, I mean, it's just lies after lies after lies coming out of the US's mouth. Seriously, I mean, this guy just talks with a straight face and just lies out of his mouth like it's nothing. And I remember a couple of months ago, he was crying crocodile tears because he heard some couple of civilians died in Ukraine, and he was crying crocodile tears. And now he's just doesn't care anything about these Palestinian lives, and he's just lying out of his mouth. Even though this is worse than, remember that Baghdad Bob or something who was lying in Iraq? This guy's worse, I think, John Kirby. I mean, I don't know how much they pay this guy, but, bloody hell. I mean, they need to get rid of him. I mean, he is single-handedly destroying credibility of the United States around the world. Is there any country that's going to believe a word coming out of United States' mouth because of this guy? Seriously, just have a moral compass. I mean, the world doesn't buy this shit anymore. Seriously. Absolutely unbelievable. So let's go to Sunak now. And basically, I've done a search on Sunak to see if he actually talks anything about this incident. And you can see 2 hours ago, Sunak insists he did not talk about green card. He's cheekily questions, he's basically he's talking about Rwanda. He's talking about election, Rwanda. He's talking about Labour, Rwanda again. And, he did talk about, there's one thing there about the awful tragedy, but the rest of it is just, it's pretty much like nothing. He's just, he's just basically talking BS most of the time. He's just disappeared. 3 Britons have got killed. And he's not on, he should be out on television condemning Israel, saying this is not acceptable, this, you killed 3 Britons. End of the day, he's got responsibility to keep Britain safe, at home and abroad. This guy doesn't give a crap if any Britons get killed here or there. As long as he gets paid by the Israelis, by, the Friends of Israel lobby, he doesn't care. In fact, he probably doesn't even care because he's not even British himself. Yeah, he likes to call himself British, but, he's got Indian roots, I hate to say it. Bloody hell, this guy doesn't give a crap about Britons dying here or abroad. Absolutely unbelievable. As long as he keeps friends with Israel, as long as he pays, Israel's aid and gives them military aid, he doesn't care. The United States and Britain is losing so many friends and allies around the world with this kind of behavior. Nobody's going to take Britain or the United States seriously after this. Nobody. Destroying all credibility around the world. Disgusting, guys, disgusting. So I've showed you that, guys, and yeah, it's just a bit about NATO as well. You got Stoltenberg still talking the same hymn sheet as well. Stoltenberg is saying that Ukraine is still winning and he will win. He wants to give 100 billion aid package. Ukraine is lost, guys. Ukraine is lost. I mean, that guy's living in a Bollywood dream. I don't think Ukraine's going to last a year, let alone 5 years. He's talking about giving this 100 billion that will last 5 years. No way. Ukraine doesn't even have any people left. A couple of days ago, Zelensky lowered the age of conscription from 27 to 25. But I've seen kids aged 17 and 18 in buses. These are like all over Twitter, these clips. 18-year-olds basically going to the front line. I've seen it in Twitter. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, guys. And you've seen this, by the way. And yeah, just let's finish off with Iran. So the question is, what's Iran going to do in retaliation for its embassy being bombed? I'm not 100% sure, guys. I mean, I don't think there's much Iran can do because if Iran retaliates, Israel retaliates, and we're talking about World War III, Iran probably doesn't have a chance with Israel because Israel's got nuclear weapons. So, and I'm pretty sure Israel and Netanyahu, that crazy Satan, will easily use those nuclear weapons against Iran, and Iran knows that as well. So there's not much they can do. I think they're going to have to kind of bite the bullet here. And what Iran can do is probably use their proxies to attack Israel, like Hezbollah, like Yemen, the Houthis, and basically provide more support to them, provide more support to the Iraqi resistance and other resistance around the Middle East, and attack Israeli and US targets basically in retaliation. I think that's probably the best they can do. If Iran attacks Israel full head on with missiles and stuff, then I think things will escalate. US will get involved, and Israel will probably throw nuclear weapons, and God knows what else will happen. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, and yeah, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care for now. Bye bye.